I am delighted to hand you over to our first session for day 2 of the Data Governance Deep Dive. We are joined for a panel discussion, and the title is Adapt to a New World of Data Sharing, Data Risk and Governance Without Physical Limits. And our moderator for this session is Della Zhuang, who is the APAC Growth Manager from Ataccama. Thank you so much, Della.
Thank you, Siobhan, and thank you everyone for joining. Hi everyone, my name is Della, and I'm the APAC Growth Manager in Ataccama. So Ataccama is a global leader in providing enterprise data quality fabric. So today I have the absolute honor to be joined by 3 expert panelists on the topic of how to adapt to a new world of data sharing. So our panelists are on the screen. I have Zak Khan from Australian Energy Market Operator, and I also have Sandhya Iyer from Latitude Financial Services Group, Financial Services, and Richard Drummond from MeBank. So over the next 30 to 40 minutes also, we'll discuss, their experiences, their learnings, and their insights into this topic, how organization can manage data risk and governance without physical limits. So without further ado, I want to open the floor to our panelists. How is everyone doing over the last, 18 months working in such a hybrid mode or working from home? What are the challenges that you have experienced personally and professionally as an organization when it comes to data? So maybe we can start with Zak.
Yep, sounds good. Thanks, Della. And really excited to be here to be talking about this topic. It's quite an interesting topic. Just a bit of intro. So as Della mentioned, I work for AMO, Energy Market Operator, who manage the wholesale energy markets as well as runs the grid. Really, the idea is to make energy reliable, secure for all of Australia, basically. So my role within AMO is essentially I head up the business analytics function. So that includes essentially data visualization, data quality, data governance, as well as the business engagement function. So in terms of, my previous roles, a number of different roles within data analytics domains. So I was fortunate enough to do, quite a wide-ranging role from data strategy to, data governance, data quality, data engineering, data warehousing, etc., and also advanced analytics. So in terms of, current challenges and the opportunities. So this is quite an interesting area within data governance. We've been doing a lot of work in this space over the last year and a half to essentially enable AMO to become more data driven. We do have a lot of information because we're an independent party within the energy space, and a number of areas we looked at to make sure that how do we essentially understand the data that we have, but not only that, following on that, how do we essentially enable value and also protect important information, basically, in a nutshell.
Thank you, Zak. I think that's great insight. Sandhya, what do you think? What's some of the biggest challenges that you have seen so far?
Yeah, sure, Della. First of all, really, really excited to be here. So thanks for having me. By the way of a quick intro, Sandhya Iyer, I look after data governance and strategy at Latitude Financial Services, which is financial services company with a number of different products such as buy now, pay laters, credit cards, and personal loans. So similar to Zak, I've also worked in the data industry for over 15 years now, and very fortunate that I've had opportunities to work in many different areas, including analytics, reporting, and more recently data governance, and also data science and machine learning. So a bit of everything, which I'm quite fortunate to have done. Coming to post-pandemic and how we've been going professionally and personally, it's quite interesting. And what I've gone through is probably what we've seen a lot of people go through in the industry as well. Initially, when we started remote working, I was like, yay, I've got 2-3 hours in my diary free now, and I don't have to spend traveling. And I tried to put it into work and getting things done. And it was giving me a bit of kick that I was getting more stuff done, right? And I think across the board, industries were seeing productivity going up massively during that period. And then 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months passed, and we were still there. And that's where we saw that work had not only entered our houses, but it had actually encroached our family time and everything pretty much. And that's where the lines started getting blurred for most people. So it was the major challenge for me, and I think many others, was how do you then draw a line between where work finishes and where personal life starts? And also, how do you look after yourself, your mental health, physical health, family, etc. Now that work, home, everything is in the same place. I think personally that was the biggest challenge. Coming to work, I think it's very interesting. Latitude we began our cloud journey even before COVID broke out. But I think from a security perspective, we were still fine. I think majority of our data was in a physical on-premise data center. It's easy to protect it. And all of a sudden now, we're moving to cloud. Which is accessible from any web browser to anyone. And we also have to allow access to people working from their own homes through their own networks, right? So all of a sudden you see that security, it's gone a couple of notches up, and it all of a sudden becomes the foremost and the most important thing that most companies have started focusing on. And it's the same with Latitude. So how do we then educate people to take ownership and own security for our organizations and be careful when they are handling data was one of the biggest areas of focus for us.
It sounded like some exciting work that had happened in Latitude. What about you, Richard?
So introduce myself. So my name's Richard Drummond. I head up the data management team at MeBank. MeBank's a bank based in Melbourne. Recently, we've been acquired by Bank of Queensland, so we've now become a bigger bank, which is one of the key challenges that we're facing into at the moment. How to share data across two large organisations. I've been in the data and analytics space for over 20 years across retail organisations and financial services. It's what I've done pretty much the whole of my career. Now I look after the data strategy, the data governance, data quality, and our project change management at MeBank. So lots of great things to keep me busy there. And very much like everybody, we weren't really set up to work from home as an organisation. We had 1,300 people that quite happily worked out of Melbourne Central Tower every day. We're a really sociable bunch, really creative thinkers that like being together. I used to work from home every Thursday, but pretty much my team and very few people actually worked from home. So it was a bit of a culture shock last March when we thought we were leaving the building for 6 to 8 weeks, and pretty much we've been working from home ever since. We went back for a short time in a hybrid model, but yeah, so quite a shock. Having all of our call center folks being at home taking calls got priority. So in the early days, our networks and systems really weren't keeping up with the demand. So you had weird things like data people are really proactive, but they start working weird hours, like 5 till 1 in the morning, because the network wasn't busy there. So there were some kind of strange practices that, to Sandy's point, you do have to get back to some normality. And that's what we're kind of trying to be doing over the last few months. Just trying to keep connected with all of our people in our teams was really, really important, and coming up with all sorts of tricks and tactics to be able to do that.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you, everyone. Yeah, I think we do experience in Ataccama we experience the same as well, and our client do share the same experience as you all today. So I think, Richard, you mentioned that you were set up to and also Sandhya, I think all the panelists today, the organization you're in was already set up to facilitate the remote remote work or like hybrid mode of working. I want to turn to Richard to, just get your thoughts on, is there any practices that's changed or any initiative that's been accelerated because of the extension of the working from home or remote working type of working because of this?
Definitely, and it really kind of highlights all the and really showcases why data governance is so important. Because when everybody dissipates out of the organisation, it's really hard to fall back on those kind of informal relationships that you had with people. We're a smallish organisation, so you knew everybody. You pretty much knew all the people that were accessing data warehouses and things like that. So this is where all your hard work to put those governance policies and frameworks and access policies into place really kicks in, because you're really relying on those. So things like new starters, we've got very close control through a sale point system in terms of who gets access to all sorts of types of data. So all of the data, it's really important that all your data is classified. So you can set up those different access layers so that you can control based on people's roles who is accessing various data points. And especially when new starters come, I always say, always be nice to the newbies, because they remember. And especially now, people joining organizations that don't have those kind of connections with physical connections, you really need to set them up for success. So this is where your data literacy programs become really important. Physical things like being able to just send them T-shirts and things just to give them an awareness of the importance of data in the organization. All of our new starters have to do a training module, which really just highlights the importance of how we manage our data risk in the organisation. So yeah, that literacy, having buddies when new starters join is one of the things that's really important through these remote working times.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I think the data literacy program has been, quite a hot topic lately, and I think for all the data professionals, that you can't leave the people outside of the entire data governance program. It has to go hand in hand, and it's great to see that MiBank has such a successful literacy program. I don't know if Zak and Sandhya has anything to add on that, just some tips or anything they have done to ensure, I guess, data literacy across the organization.
Yeah, look, it's a really good and a good topic. I think similar to Richard said. I mean, with data governance, generally when people think about data governance, thinks, okay, there's going to be a whole lot of rules and this is what you cannot do. It's not really about that. It's the data literacy is so important, because otherwise what will happen is you're going to hamstring people rather than enabling them to get the most out of data. Yes, there's a risk element to it with sensitive data, and data classification is something we've done also. So as part of our recent governance program, there was a lot of work done, looking at a data classification framework to identify sensitive data, and then looking at what's not sensitive, what's internal and public, right? So anyone should be able to get access to the data, without any question asked, right, within the organization. So that's one bit. Another bit is really training, education, and awareness of what they can do with data, and what they need to do to handle sensitive data. So we did a lot of trainings across the organization, making people aware, especially in the COVID era. So making sure that when you're at home, you're working on things, it's very easy to sort of get distracted with other things, right? So it's really emphasizing the tools that are already in place, but really emphasizing, how do you handle this information, better, and then education and training across the organization really helped to not only protect but also enable the value.
Thank you. Thank you, Zak. Yeah. I also want to check in with Sandhya as well, because I had a quick chat with Sandhya before the call today. I know Latitude, itself, I think all the organizations, they are, data first. And I know Sandhya's one of her professional goal is no data, no decision. And she's really passionate about, building this into the culture. And I know, Sandhya, what's your take on this topic, just, the people aspect in the data governance and data management?
It's one of my favorite topics, as we discussed earlier, Della. But very quickly coming back on the comments Richard and Zak had, very interesting comments, and I have a view on that as well. Because what we did at Latitude was similar to what Richard said. The data risk was a heightened focus on that, and of course we needed to control that. So initially, what we went is, okay, we're going to restrict access, we're going to monitor it very carefully, and that was very important, especially given financial services, which Richard probably would also agree. It's very important in banking and financial services organization. But soon what we realized, it was counterproductive for some parts of the business. Like we also have AI and ML going on, which require access to data, which is not structured, which is not labeled. So all of a sudden we had two types of problems to solve, and there was no one-size-fits-all solution for both of these different groups. That's when we realized it has to be the ownership element, that each person owns the data risk and they are responsible for it. And as a result of it, we have now started implementing more a carrot stick type of a governance framework, but it's not all about stick and restricting, but it's about, we'll give you the access, we'll give you the freedom. You also then are accountable and responsible to govern the data and to maintain the security. And as a result of it, we created this new role, which pure focus of that was data culture and data literacy, to spread the awareness so you can then give the right tools to the different users of the data and business, and give them the right level of support to do that as well. So that's something we did, and that's why that's my role now. I've got data governance, but I've also got culture in my role. So that's a good part. But I think coming back to your question, Della, around people and culture, I'd like to break that down into three parts, if that's okay. I think data and enablement and accessibility from three different lenses. The first one being data team, the second one being consumers of data outside the data team, and the third one being between organizations or partners, right? So we talk about accessibility of data, governance of data within the data teams. Everyone will recall prior to the pandemic, it was pretty easy. For example, if a marketer said, I want a list of customers to go out with a marketing campaign, they would just go to the data person. They would, the data person could create, an analyst could create a list of customers, quickly have another analyst looking over their shoulder, doing a second analyst check, signing off, and there you go, right? Easy. Remote working, very difficult. So all of a sudden we picked up that collaboration was getting very, very difficult for us to implement any data solutions at scale. And this is not just engineers, but across the board, all the different data teams. So this is where we started adopting more collaborative practices, and we adopted some of the software engineering practices. For example, adoption of GitHub repository. So where we, not just for engineering, but also for analysts and data science, we started storing and collaborating on GitHub, storing all our code there. That allowed for peer review, quality control, testing, and co-creation of code, right? So there's two people can work at the same time. It was new to the analyst community and we are still learning, but that was one of the great things we did to enable our people within the data teams. Second, coming to the data consumers outside of the data teams, which is our typical marketers, our product people, finance, risk folks, etc. And I think that's where, coming back to Della, your comment earlier, our data strategy has self-service written all over it. Because that's the key enabler of no data, no decisioning, right? So if you see, our strategy talks about everything as a self-service. So we have definitely reporting as a service, which many people have done, but also engineering as a service, and even something as complex as ML as a service. That is what our vision is, to offer anything for people to be able to just self-serve themselves. And what is critical or foundational for this is the data governance framework and all the things around data quality, and making people can trust it, your data availability and accessibility, that it's available in a tool with the right UI that even non-data experts can use it. And also, finally, just being able to do something with it, make decisions with the data when it's available as well in a secure way. right, where you have privacy and a lot of things to follow. So I think that's where the data governance framework is super critical, and that's what we are investing in at the moment as well, like Zak mentioned. And finally, the last point around the data exchange with partners and other organizations is also pretty key at the moment, and it is getting more and more focused with more and more organizations moving to digital and digital marketing. There's so much data available for our customers online, which means collaborating and data sharing presents a whole new set of opportunities for companies. So that's again the third part around culture we are focusing on, is how can we work with our partners, merchants, collaborate on data front to provide good experience for our employees, but also good experience for our customers as well.
I love Sandy's point about the collaboration tools, and we were pretty lucky that we went to a safe, agile system 2 or 3 years ago. So really the way we work is now very collaborative. It's really breaking out work into smaller teams, squads of 8 to 10 people that really can be very self-sufficient. And so really, as they go and work outside of the hub of the head office, they've really been able to carry on being very productive. And I think our hybrid model going forward will be having a collaboration centre, and then people will come in, plan their work out, get together, do the social side of things, and then really head home to actually do the work, and then come back hopefully to celebrate the wins and successes. But there's loads of great tools out there now to help support that. So it kind of really just accelerates all the use and importance of things like Confluence and Jira from a project management and knowledge sharing position. And there's some great little tools out there that we've used, like Lucid Spark, just kind of a virtual whiteboard that really helps that kind of communication side of things. And then to Sandy's point, we've been using GitHub as well to share and maintain the code base as well.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think that's really, great insights and great input. And, we all know that, people are the most important, asset for any success of an organization. We do touch on, the tools and technology to enable collaboration in the data. So I want to, the next question, I actually want to talk about, the technologies that to enable all of the things that we just talked about in a new world of working. Zak, I know you've been working on many projects in AMO, and I just want to, ask you if you can share with us, what have been some of the initiatives that you've taken to, I guess, so far to enable this?
Yeah, look, I think there's a couple of points there, I guess. So collaboration-wise, very similar to what Richard and Sandhya said. Basically, we already were lucky enough to already have a lot of the virtual tools in place, because we had a very good flexible working arrangement in place. Also, it's a national company, so we've got offices in all the major cities. So some of my team members are based in another city. So you'd have to already, using things like, Teams, etc., to collaborate in video calls all the time across AMO. So we're lucky enough that we didn't have to shift that too much. Obviously, there's a lot more of that happening. There's that human touch is still, I think, not there. Obviously, it's good to have all these tools, but still you need that, right? So basically, I think that hybrid model works well. We have trialed that a little bit when briefly opened up. So there'll be people working in the office a couple of days to collaborate, have workshops face to face, and then obviously then from home, no more focused work one-on-one. So that's been really good on the collaboration side, and we also have the Jira Confluence in place. So that was great. In terms of, I think you're talking about data governance, quality, etc. On that front, we roll out a number of tools. We do use, Collabora as a data governance tool, so that's been quite highly successful so far. We rolled it out. We're looking at Ataccama as well for master data management and reference data. Again, these tools, without tools, is very hard to, I suppose, manage our data well. Because there's no possible way to do it just all manually, right? So the whole idea is basically having a great tool in place, but also processes that supports the tool. A tool by itself is not going to do anything. So we had to really start off with the framework, putting in place a framework and processes and roles and responsibilities also with the key business owners and data stewards who got across the business. So we did that along with the tools. So that kind of brought things together, including the things like really important things like data classification and understanding what is sensitive, what is not, understanding people's roles and embedding them with the tool. That really helped, bring it together. So yeah, it's still ongoing journey, but we've come a long way from where we were before.
That's great. Yeah, so Sandhya, Richard, I think you two mentioned your cloud strategies. I thought, if you'll be able to share, how your cloud strategy, change, whether it's accelerated, is there any additional, initiatives that implemented to enable, the new way of working so far. Maybe we can start with Sandhya.
Most certainly. And Zach, I really liked a few points that you touched here, and I'm going to weigh in a bit more around that. But before that, very quickly, I quite believe, and I've come through many different disciplines within data and have taken pride in being a problem solver. So what I believe is it's a problem we're trying to solve, and the tools is a means to solve a problem and not the end. So yes, it's very important to think about tools, but for us, that comes after we identify our problems and we identify how we're going to solve them, and then the tools come in and help help us solve that. So in terms of problem, the key ones we are looking to solve currently, especially in this new way of working, new model, is around that, like I've already mentioned, data security, especially in the light of data privacy. And we have had Australian privacy principles for ages now that govern us, and it's only going to get tightened. Consumers are getting more and more aware of what data is being shared without them knowing, and that they also have now been given control of what data can be shared around or not, right, digitally. So with that, with the privacy principles being tightened, the security of data becomes absolutely paramount. So that's the biggest focus for us, followed by data quality, because that's a foundational stone, right? I can't keep talking enough about that. And we are looking at some tools to help us do proactive data monitoring. So AI, ML-based sort of tools that can actually pick up trends proactively and help us monitor before it becomes an incident that impacts our risk posture. So we're definitely looking at that and taking quality seriously. Ownership is the other big one, the big problem we're trying to solve, and putting data back into people's hands and having the owners solve for their own problems. The way we are doing this, again, the tools we are looking at, there's a number of tools in the market, but the biggest one we are focusing on at the moment is that provides us data catalog, data definitions, business glossary, and lineage as well, and also help us carry out our data grading. All of this together will help us put data into the hands of people that want to use it and also own it. So that's how we're looking to drive the ownership element. And we like Zach, you mentioned, we are experimenting with a few. And finally, your access controls and your workflows. So we're doing a number of things within cloud. Again, role-based access is something Zach you spoke about, but few other things is your personally identifiable information. It's not accessible to people, right? You come what way, you cannot access it, you cannot download it on your computer. It stays in cloud, you work in cloud. Some principles that that help us, maintain the security within cloud and still collaborate without any issues. So those are the few things we're trying to.
Thank you.
It's more than a few things there, Sandhya. And just to pick up on a couple of Sandy's points, like the quality of data, and we're all just entrusted with our customers' data, and more of it every day, every week. So I see that as a key kind of role, and really that's our mission of our data management team, to make sure that we're good stewards of our customers' data, and then the business users can trust and use that. And I like to say there's a great Churchillian quote about never waste a good crisis. So one of the things that we've done at MeBank is actually got we have risk appetite statements, and sometimes they can be very broad brush, kind of very high level motherhood statements. But really now we've got a specific one on data quality. So that's been embedded and endorsed by our board, and we've got a certain credit risk key risk limits set to monitor that on a monthly basis. And if we have breaches in terms of data quality issues or lack of data ownership applied to certain data subject areas, then they get breaches triggered and we have to report it to the board. So just one nice little practical example of the importance that data has moved up all organizations through the COVID crisis, really.
That's great. Thank you, Richard, Sandhya, and Zak. So this is really great insight and a lot of exciting initiatives that you're carrying out at the moment. And I definitely agree with Sandhya, what you just mentioned. Technology is there to enable to achieve the outcome, and the tech is not the end goal. We definitely agree with that. So I want to wrap up the panel discussion today. I can keep going with you guys all day long, but to wrap it up, I want to ask some bold prediction from you. With what you've seen, what you experienced so far, what does the future of work look like, and specifically, what does the future of work in data will look like in your opinion? Maybe we'll start with Zak.
That was an interesting question. So I think our roles are changing. And at the moment, in terms of a number of ways, one of them obviously the emergence of ML and AI into everything. So anything from looking at your virtual assistant, smart home, self-driving cars to the way you do work, basically. Right. So what I see is obviously there's a lot of automation that are happening across the industry. So the role it's not necessarily sort of less people are needed, but more the roles itself are changing a little bit. Right. So, in terms of there's a lot of roles that are coming up, understanding the business value creation. So you'll see a lot of business translator roles coming up a lot, ML and machine learning experts in many different ways. Obviously, data scientists, as we know, it's been ever growing. So what I'm, I guess I'm trying to say is, so basically the need for skilled data resources will increase significantly, and in my view, we're going to probably have more demand than supply. And the way we do work, the hybrid model that Richard talked about as well, that will change significantly. And COVID probably accelerated a lot of that. But in the future, I think I can see a lot of organizations adopting their model. It doesn't matter where you work from. Yes, you have to collaborate sometimes, coming together face to face. But a lot of the time, a lot of the work can be done quite virtually.
Thank you, Zak. Sandhya, what do you think the future will look like?
Yeah, no, I can't agree more with Zak around the skills piece, which we are already seeing in the market right now, right? Within the data engineering and data science space, especially, we're always already feeling the shortage of the skills in that market, which is only going to grow as demand for data grows. There's a lot of data, right since big data, but even more now as more and more digital media, social media is being adopted, more and more data that is going to be available. More data, meaning more you can do with data. So the demand for data at scale is going to grow. So right now, when you try and build one machine learning model, a lot of organizations that are in the start of their journey, it probably take a few months to get on and build their first model and bring it to production. But surprisingly, even the second model after the first model takes almost the same amount of time to build, right? So what we're saying is we don't really have, and I think most companies are there, including Latitude, from a maturity perspective. We don't really have a cookie cutter pattern to scale at where the demand is going, and that's probably going to become bigger. So data governance will be crucial for this, is my take, that you make data available to everyone. You're not bottlenecking it with just a few people being able to play with data. You actually want to do it at scale, democratize data, and the core foundation is being invest more in data governance and make sure it's available and of good quality as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Cannot agree more. What about you, Richard? What's your bold predictions?
Well, Della, I think the future is definitely bright in data. So far different from when I stumbled across data as a career over 20 years ago. So we've just brought, and there's lots of bright young people out there. We've just brought a student in from Monash on a IBL placement, Audrey, and within 2 months she's pretty much running half the show. So just encourage everybody, to consider data as a career and give bright young people a chance. A lot of it, there's technical skills, but as much of it is about collaboration and communication skills going forward. I know Cam Tout, who leads the Dharma Melbourne chapter, says data governance is all around communication. So work on softer skills because they're going to be just as important as tools and technical skills going forward.
Yeah. Thank you. I think I really, really agree. I'm so glad that, we're all in these, wonderful professions, really enjoy, working in, data governance and data management. So I think that with that, I want to, take the, the opportunity to thank Zak, Sandhya and Richard again for, sharing your insight and your experiences. I learned so much just from the discussion with you all today. And I'm sure the audience from our, the session today definitely get more, not as more, but definitely as much as I have got from you. So thank you once again for joining and for the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks
for having us.
Thank you so much to Della Zhuang, who is the APAC Growth Manager for Ataccama, on that excellent panel. And thank you so much for all of our panelists for giving us such an interesting discussion to start day 2.